Hey everybody, welcome to my new channel, Emerge and See, and to my first ever video that I've ever made. Please bear with me on this one because I'm going to try and do this all in one take because I'm not too familiar with editing software yet. I'm going to try and get my head around it, but at this moment in time, everything you see in front of you, I've managed to do in a couple of weeks. So the graphics, the setup, I'm using OBS, some free software. So in this video, it's an introduction to me and to the channel, and I want to just set out a little bit about myself and what I aim to achieve with the channel, like objectives and why I decided to do this. About 8 years ago, maybe even closer to 10, I thought I was going to start a YouTube channel, and then I decided that I didn't like the sound of my own voice, that I didn't like how I looked on camera, and I kept putting it off and putting it off, etc. And so 10 years later, now that I'm starting a channel, I certainly didn't think that I was going to be doing a channel on pro-democracy politics. I thought it might have been something like music or theater or something to that effect, which is kind of what I'm into. I A lot of people that I watch have, on YouTube, a lot of the channels that I watch are all people who've been into politics their whole life, and I have not really. It's only since sort of the rise of Trump and the populist far right that I've sort of become quite engaged in politics. And now with the re-election of Trump and also the rise of far right in Europe, in certain areas, in Romania at the moment, Russia definitely, Hungary, etc., I've decided that I'm going to become a pro-democracy warrior and jump on the bandwagon and try and dissect it all. So a bit about myself. Firstly, I came up with the name Emergency when I was born in South Africa. I was born into apartheid actually, and in the early 70s, give away my age here. And I was a teenager in the 80s and during the height of apartheid. And I used to, back then I identified as a Rastafarian, believe it or not. I believe most people, I live in the UK now, I have been for like the last 25 years. And most people over here would have called me a Trustafarian, although I was back then, I believed a true Rastafarian. I was running around with Nelson Mandela's Freedom Charter and the police in Cape Town, where I'm from. I mean, that's where I was born. The police in Cape Town loved me to bits. I mean, they kept pulling me as I was running around with red, yellow, green all over me, um, berets with the Lion of Judah, and I was definitely not your typical white teenager. Although a lot of people my age at that point in time were starting to come around. In fact, people probably older than me as well were starting to come around. Apartheid eventually ending in 1994. So, during that height, yeah, I ran around a lot, rebelling against the system, and I eventually got institutionalized by the state, and I was thrown into an Afrikaner school, which is back then sort of like the national language, along with English, me being an English speaker. And but before I was institutionalized, I went to a pretty good school, and this particular school, like sort of like early high school days, they started to see the light, let's say. Uh, regarding apartheid and sort of how things needed to start changing. And they actually, like, we would have assemblies, things like that, and they would show us videos and talk to us about sort of apartheid and how it was wrong, going against sort of the system and the government at that time, which I look back on now and think, it's quite heroic, really. And one day we were having a talk, and the person who was giving the talk, I mean, I can't even remember this is a long time ago. This is 30, 35 years ago. The person, in fact, actually long, it's probably about 40 years ago. The person giving the talk showed us a slide of a bridge in Cape Town, sorry, in South Africa somewhere. I can't remember if it was Cape Town. And on it was sprayed emerge and see. And of course, if you say that quickly, emergency, well, that's the state the country was in. And that's how I came up with the name for this channel. And as you could see on the previous picture, that's not the bridge, and that is not the picture I was shown back then. I made that graphic myself just for effect, really. I actually had a look for that that picture, but I definitely the internet didn't even exist then, so I couldn't find that picture. But this is something I put together, but that's where it comes from. And that's that's my aim. So what I bring, I believe, is sort of a maybe not unique view, but a view of having come from born into a fascist country and come through the other side, and now seeing the rise of fascism in Europe and in America. It's quite concerning. I mean, I look at Trump's movement, the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, and it has insane similarities with the old nationalist party, the old apartheid party, of the apartheid regime back in those days. Obviously, things are slightly different. The regime never had the internet. When the internet first came out, I thought to myself, quite naively back then, I thought to myself that apartheid could never have existed in the digital age because knowledge is now so widespread. But boy, is I wrong, because you think a place like America, and my heart goes out to all, the moderates and progressives and conservatives, Republican conservatives, mainstream sort of non-MAGA people that just the amount of disinformation and propaganda that is now spread on these social networks is incredible. It's amazing. So I take back my words, because I'm sure back then, if we had the internet, that nationalist party would have found a way to utilize the internet and its propaganda, like MAGA, like the current Russian, well, the Kremlin, Putin and his henchmen. Um, so yes, somehow propaganda and disinformation exist. It boggles my mind a little bit about how people can get sucked in. But it's true. I mean, Trump just winning a second term, just, I'm still shaking my head. But so anyway, like I think my main aim is to call this out and to sort of dissect it and look at like cult mentality, look at a few different, well, particularly at the bite model, I guess, the BITE model, cult, and how you get sucked in, and what the future holds for us. Fortunately for me, I'm living in the UK, where our Labour Party has just come into power after 14 years of the Conservatives. Now, I'm not going to really sort of like, jump all over the Conservatives, apart from the last few years, when it became quite popularist with Johnson. Prior to that, it was just your normal Conservative versus your Labour, socialist, well, socialist democratic, party, Labour Party, who I do vote for. If I knew our Green Party would win an election, I would vote for the Green Party. But I know that they're not in a position yet to win that election. So a general election, I do vote for them in the local elections. So yeah, I'm lucky over here. Although yesterday, I believe some right-wing nutters decided to start a petition for Keir Starmer to hold another general election. I mean, can you believe it? What a load of nonsense. That's been totally blown out of the water. There's never ever going to be another general election. Yeah, like probably not for the next sort of 4.5 years, and rightfully so. And I don't agree with everything our Labour Party has done in its first sort of 6 months of governance. I mean, there is a few things, a few question marks. But most parties, when they first come into power in their first year, change up a whole lot of things. Uh, So I still think that it's better than the Conservatives currently, right? And I probably won't ever vote Conservative because it's just not me. I see myself as a liberal, moderate to progressive. Due to my age, I'm slightly more moderate maybe than most progressives, but I'm in that bracket. Um, which is also quite weird for a South African, I guess, of my age. But there you go. All right, so that's a general little breakdown of the channel, what you can expect. I think my first video, I'm trying to sort of formulate it in my head, but I think my first video is going to be something along the lines of the similarities of the apartheid regime back in the day in South Africa to the current sort of rise of MAGA. And I heard the other day that the far right leader of the AUR party in Romania is like taking the lead in the polls, or in the election that they're having. I mean, it's crazy. And of course, in France there's a rise. In Italy there's a rise. Orban in Hungary. It's all pretty nuts. They're all Putin friendly, which like even blows my mind even more. Especially like MAGA are very, in America, very Russian friendly, and it's just it's boggling. So that's a little breakdown, and that's what I'm going to do. So I think my first video is going to be a comparison between the old apartheid regime and the modern rise of the right, and I hope to bring that to you probably within the next week. I think I'm hoping to get my head around this whole recording. As you can see, I'm doing this all in one take. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. Oh yeah, I did, because of the editing software. But I do have a little bit of a background in theatre, live performance, as a technician, sort of lighting and sound. So I've actually got a little video here. I'll show you my studio. That's just another picture of Cape Town. It's pretty beautiful place. It's amazing to just think that such a beautiful place has had like such crazy history. I suppose like most beautiful places, eh? So here's a little breakdown of my studio, and I've effectively it's a music slash sound design studio. It's my hobby, really. But I've converted it now into a sort of a video production studio, and you can have a look at this. There's no sound on the video, so I'll just run you through obviously my TV. That's the chair that I'm sitting in now. My sound deck's down there on the right. A little drum machine synthesizer over there, a Korg, a couple of MIDI controllers, a Roland, and then my laptop, my microphone, and my monitors. So that's what I'm using at the moment. Uh, yeah, it's all right actually. I like the little setup. All right. So in conclusion, I'm going to quickly mention a few channels that I currently subscribe to on YouTube and watch, and recommend that if any of you out there are sort of pro-democracy, left-leaning, in fact, even if you sort of like right of a little bit right of center, you're welcome here to discuss the rise of the far right. More than happy to have you all. I should just say I don't identify as Rastafarian anymore. I haven't for a long time. I'm actually an atheist. But if you are a person of faith, but are still pro-democracy, you're welcome here. Love you to subscribe and to keep an eye on my content. I'm looking for people actually, because I'm going to do live streams. I'm looking for mods. I ooh, think, let me show you. Uh, it's not in there. I've taken it out. Hold on. What's going? Oh, yes. I think you are seeing it. You're seeing it on the bottom there. You'll see an email address. It would be great if you've got any experience with video editing and production. If you've got a few tips, you could email me a few tips. That'll be great. I'm also looking, like I said, for mods for my live videos and my live streams. I'll have like a chat where people can ask questions, and we can just build a community. That's the aim. So also, the socials. Up until about 2 weeks ago, I only had a private Facebook account and my private YouTube account. Obviously, this YouTube account is not my private YouTube account. That's different. I've had both of them since about 2008, I think. Um, but in the last 2 weeks, I've like now gone and set myself up with just about every single social there is. So I'm now on X, but I'm not going to be. I'm only going to use X to get content for my videos. I'm not really going to use it as a social platform and post on it, all of that. Elon Musk, South African as well, does my head in, and I don't really want to support it. I've gone back and forth. I only recently, literally 2 days after I set up the account, I noticed that everybody was leaving X. So I think for the meantime, I'm going to stay there just to get content for my videos, but not to really communicate with anyone. But I'm also on Threads. Again, not really going to use that, but I've also started a Blue Sky account. Now, that's something I'd like to uh, 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 pick up followers on and start following people myself. Also started a Facebook page for emergency, Instagram, all those socials are there. So if you want to go find me and follow me on those, that would be great. Subscribe to this channel, that would be awesome. Of course, the aim is to get this channel monetized, and I need to get to a certain point on subscriptions and viewing time. So everything's helpful. But also, if you want to be involved as a mod or got any tips, like hit me up on that email address, emergency73@gmail.com. And the channels that I watch, right? So, like, really, regarding the situation in the States, I watch the Midas Touch Network. I watch David Pakman show, Brian Tyler Cohen, Luke Beasley, and the Bulwark, and others. By the way, everything that I mentioned now, there are links for in the description of this video, so you can go to if you've never heard of them before, go to them, subscribe. I mean, most of these guys, like the first three that I mentioned, are all on their way to 4 million subscribers now. So like these guys are like they're great and they're doing really well. Um, I listened to a South African political uh, uh, channel called Biz News TV. They're pretty cool. But that's, if you're a South African and you haven't heard of them, yeah, go and check them out. UK Politics Joe. I watch the BBC News channel on YouTube. LBC. Diary of a CEO is actually pretty good. It's quite a liberal. It's not really a political podcast. It's more of just a very interesting. He interviews sort of people all over the spectrum. It's really good. And then of course Ukraine. I'm definitely pro-Ukraine, anti-Russia, or anti-Kremlin, anti-Putin. And I listen to a guy called Jake Bro and Silicon Curtain and a Ukrainian called Denis Davidov. They're all great. So if you got through this video with me, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please subscribe, and we are going to hopefully get to 1,000 as soon as possible, and keep growing, grow the community, and I look forward to conversing with all of you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.